Hello and welcome, friends. We are ready to talk about the other innings as well. Today, I feel like Pakistani YouTuber, cricketer, ex-cricketer, ex-journalist, and overall subject matter expert on anything, including चाटे हैं
चाटें
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 चैटिंग करते करते चाटें खाते हैं हम लोग.
So let's dive right in. Let's start with you, Nishant. Which is the other most memorable ODI match that you wanted to talk about?
Okay, so again, this is a non-India match. So the match that I want to talk about is it's from 2007. It's Australia versus New Zealand. Again, in non-relevant bilateral series. This happened in New Zealand just before the 2007 World Cup. Australia were such a dominant side that I think Ponting sat out in that series. Michael Hussey was given the captaincy, and they were trying out some new players. I think Adam Voges was, before making the amazing Test match comeback that he did later on.
Even
He,
Donald Adam Woj Bradman.
yes, he was there. Craig White was in that team. And a very young Shane Watson who actually used to ball at 150 at that,
Shane
occasionally
Watson
touch
150 भी
150.
करता था.
I mean, I like at least 145 plus I've seen him
शेन
in
वॉटसन
this.
ने 2003 वर्ल्ड कप के आसपास डेब्यू किया था पहले
Yeah.
कीनिया में एक बहुत ही पॉइंटलेस वनडे सीरीज में. हाँ,
कौन कौन खेला था उसमें? केनिया, ऑस्ट्रेलिया और
पाकिस्तान.
अच्छा ठीक है, क्योंकि एक इंडिया पाकिस्तान में से किसी को तो रखना ही पड़ेगा ना, वरना
हाँ हाँ, ऐसे न्यूट्रल वेन्यू में खेलना है तो डेफिनेटली तो चाहिए एक टीम. नेदरलैंड्स में भी ऐसे होता था. हाँ, गो ऑन.
So yeah, so what that series was. I mean, I think the second match also. So this was the third of the three match ODI series, and Australia were consistently scoring like 330s, 340s, 350s, and every time they would lose. Um, so so yeah, this was the third match. I think just in the previous match they had scored 330 something, and again New Zealand chased it down. This time with I mean, in the second match it was a lot easier chase. Like they won with 5 wickets or 6 wickets something. But yeah, so this match I remember actually watching it. Most of it live actually. This was again, I was doing my bachelor's. I was in the hostel. कुछ तो शायद क्लास बंक की थी, and this was also early in the morning because it was happening in New Zealand. So I and a bunch of other people hostel के common room में, we were watching ESPN या जिस पे भी ये match आ रहा था. And at that time, for some reason, New Zealand, I mean, it's also true now, New Zealand can go on and play like 100 consecutive amazing matches. They would still be underdogs in the 101st. So ये तब से चला आ रहा था, and for this specific reason that nobody else cares about them, despite them playing pretty good cricket. I was a big New Zealand fan. Um, I had a cap also with New Zealand's cricket logo on it with the leaf. So I literally had a black cap. Uh, so yeah, I mean, and from what
you mean African American cap?
exactly. So yeah, so what I do remember is कि वही match देख रहे हैं, and Matthew Hayden, I think he scored like 170 something in this match. Very like dominating kind of a figure, would walk down to guys like Daryl Tuffy, James Franklin, और कुछ तो शायद 9-10 छक्के मारे उसने उस 180 में. It wasn't like a 180 of a 120 balls though. It was I know that he definitely played. I mean, his strike rate wasn't like 150 or something. It was more like 104. But anyway, us time pe, so he was going on at one end, and then Watson, Haddon, Hodge, Hussey, sab aake, they had sort of small cameos, and New Zealand, and sorry, the Australians got to 346. Again, we wanted to win. उस समय इतना ज़्यादा क्रिकेट का टेक्निकल एक्सपर्टीज था नहीं, बट आई रिमेंबर वन ऑफ माई फ्रेंड सेइंग कि यार ग्राउंड बहुत छोटा है, क्या पता कुछ कर दें ये लोग. So we thought, okay, maybe. So then, after the innings break, I think Stephen Fleming आया open करने with Lou Vincent. Lou Vincent is such a royal kind of a name. I don't know.
वो
Low
फिक्सर
Vincent.
फिक्सर भी है लेकिन वो अलग हो गया.
Yeah.
When that is when he became a low Vincent.
हाँ.
And Australian bowling attack had Johnson, Tate, Watson bowling at 145 plus, and Nathan Bracken, who is again a very underrated one-day bowler. He was a pretty good one-day bowler. Youngster Brad Hogg was there, and
हॉक
another
वी
youngster,
लॉग
yeah,
नया नाम है अभी हॉक वी लॉग.
Hogg Vlog, and obviously Adam Burgess was there. But I remember Sean Tate, अपना full, that slinging action. He's bowling to Stephen Fleming, and Fleming, like, sort of flick pulls him for a four in his first over, and then he also like drives him. And we thought, कि okay, अभी 2 ओवर में 17 रन हो गए, so maybe who knows. And then all of a sudden, New Zealander 40 for 4. I said, लो भाई खत्म हो गया. You know, but again, अब हॉस्टल में ही बैठे हैं, क्लास ऑलरेडी बंक कर चुके हैं, so we are watching. So there again another forgotten name, Peter Fulton. पता नहीं उसने शायद कितने मैचेस खेले, I don't even remember. But when I used to play book cricket, by book cricket I mean पन्ने पलटा के.
हाँ हाँ
जो नंबर आया वो.
Yeah.
हाँ हाँ.
So Peter Fulton was always in there. First, I don't know, maybe it was because of this match or something. I've seen him that he was one of those players who gave me the feeling कि ये ऐसे वनडे में ऐसे 80 बॉल में 40 बना के he would everybody would revolve around him kind of a guy. But in this particular match, he's aggressive. He's hitting fours. He's hitting sixes. He gets a quick fire 50. But then comes the man, Craig McMillan, and oh my god, that Macmillan innings is I mean, I've watched that highlights for like numerous times, and the way he is going after Johnson and Tate is just amazing. He in fact, at one point, Ian Smith is commentating, and he says he hits two back-to-back sixes for his 100, and Smith says the gladiator is back with a bang.
अच्छा
So
डैरी मॉरिसन ने यहीं से सीखा लग रहा है सब कुछ.
maybe. And a very young sort of Brendan McCullum there. He's batting at 7. So from 40 for 4, then Peter Fulton takes them to. When Fulton gets out, I think it's like 120 for 5. Yeah, ऐसा कुछ. And then McCullum and McMillan are just, slaying it. Like they're killing it. And then Watson, that this is what I actually remember when I was watching the highlights, that Watson gets McMillan, he cleans him up, and it was a fairly quick delivery. Or Watson gets one of the wickets in which the batsman is really hurried on because it's a 145 plus ball, and someone gets out. And then I don't know if you guys remember him. There was a guy called Mark Gillespie.
हाँ हाँ आई
हाँ,
रिमेम्बर.
सो मार्क गिलिस्पी ने कुछ तो 15 बॉल में 30 रन ऐसा कुछ बनाए, एंड दैट 20, I think 28 में से 26 runs were like inside edges for 4. And it was so, I don't know, because I was supporting New Zealand so much, it was so nice to watch that. वो होता है ना कभी कभी कि उस मोमेंट पे आई वाज थिंकिंग कि ये ऑस्ट्रेलिया जब भी इंडिया के अगेंस्ट खेलती है, all their edges don't go to the keeper, they go for 4, so they deserve
तुम
it.
भी बदला ले रहे थे क्या? सबको
Yeah,
बदला
yeah,
लेना ऑस्ट्रेलिया से
exactly,
बेसिकली.
That's it.
exactly. And
क्योंकि तब हम खुद capable नहीं थे ना बदला लेने के.
like
दूसरों से
Tate
उम्मीद
and
रखते थे.
Johnson are bowling at like 150, and this guy just keeps on edging them. Kabhi third man before, kabhi fine leg before. And then it comes down to a point where 7 runs are needed from 6 balls, but just 1 wicket is remaining. And Johnson, not Johnson, sorry, Bracken is going to start bowling the last over. He's had a pretty decent game. जिसमें 350 बने. He's just gone for like 4.5 an over or something.
Even the 434 game, if you look at Bracken,
Yeah, he got 5 for 67. Yeah, he got 5 for 67 in that match. And then the very first ball is a full toss, which McCullum just deposits in the crowd, and he surprises himself. Like, he hits a 6, and he's like, oh my god, what have I done? The scores are level. और उसके बाद तो like it was totally just cool. Like next ball pe he tries to take a single, but he doesn't take a risk because he knows that there are still 4 balls to go, and then eventually he gets 1/point for four, and they win. And Ian Smith again, because this was the last match before the World Cup, 2007 World Cup. Ian Smith was like, New Zealand can believe now. They're a bunch of believers.
2007 वर्ल्ड कप तो कैंसिल हो गया था ना.
नहीं हुआ था वो वर्ल्ड कप. हाँ.
Well, I mean, हो गया था. But
So I am looking at the scorecard of this game now, and this looks like a fascinating game. Like because 116 पे 5 and उसके
hmm.
बाद Macmillan and McCallum. Also Gillespie के 12 run out of 28 are in fours. So he clearly ran some.
Oh yeah, because he kept edging them, and मतलब कुछ force गए, and then maybe they ran twos or threes. Threes तो
Wills,
possible नहीं है न्यूजीलैंड के ग्राउंड पे, twos ही होगा, but
So you can only turn ones into twos.
वहाँ
I
सीधे twos
think
into fours हो जाता है.
I think उस टाइम में 2007 के आसपास, आई मीन हाइंडसाइट बोल रहा हूँ कि टू हैव शॉन टेट एंड मिचेल जॉनसन इन द सेम टीम, although both of them are like extremely quick, they both of them were very wayward. So
Yeah, and Mitchell Johnson has a very weird hairstyle. उसके like he's got पता नहीं, like you have to look at him. I don't know. He looked a little weird.
Mitchell Johnson before the Mooch era. It was
Yeah,
this retro look से पहले का.
he's got like not like वो 80s में mullet होती थी ना. He hasn't
हाँ.
quite got like that, but सामने से छोटे वाले हैं, पीछे से बड़े हैं. कुछ तो अजीब सा ही है वो. I don't know.
but I mean Mitchell Johnson, I mean even after everything said and done, he had his potential realize नहीं किया उसने पूरा, I think.
शोएब की
Yeah.
तरह था करियर उसका.
No, but
शोएब से better, but
he शोएब से बहुत better था, and he actually
नहीं,
won
but in the sense
them important
unfulfilled.
matches.
हाँ. Shoaib also
उसके
could
लिए
have
वो
been so much better. हाँ.
2014 एशेज के बाद उसका सब माफ है. He was,
अरे वो क्या, I mean
I mean,
seriously dude.
that 7
उसका
wicket
रिवाइवल
वाले,
इंडिया से
yeah,
हुआ वैसे.
yeah, but that series
IPL.
was so Cricket Australia के YouTube channel पे uh, there is a 9 or 10 minutes clip from that series which is called
Pace like fire.
no, it is called Thunderbolts from Johnson.
Pace is pace यार.
Pace is pace यार.
Thunderbolts from Johnson, and he's I think वो who was this opener जिसका सीरीज में इंग्लैंड ने डेब्यू कराया था,
Carberry.
कार्बरी, या उसका बैट तोड़ दिया, एंड देन जॉनथन ट्रॉट तो मतलब he was scarred for life after that. So
हाँ, I mean
But talking of this game, this is the first series when the idea that New Zealand में ground छोटा है actually got drilled into my head. तब तक काफी क्रिकेट देखा था न्यूजीलैंड में, ऐसा नहीं है कि पहली बार देखा था, बट फॉर सम वियर्ड रीजन वो कभी ऐसा लगा नहीं था कि ग्राउंड का डिमेंशन
because
छोटा
इतने
है.
चौके छक्के पड़ते नहीं थे, right? Because
पढ़ते नहीं थे,
yeah,
मतलब
the pitches were
वनडेज
bowler
फेल्ट
friendly.
लाइक नॉर्मल इवन बिफोर दैट. ये पहली बार था, एंड सब्सिक्वेंटली इजंट इट लाइक one of three such games in that series, or like there was another one of this kind in
The
that
second
very
one,
series.
the just the previous one, but that one,
The previous one.
it was like this in the sense the scores were similar, but New Zealand won it pretty easily.
Okay, so and there was one like much later where Marcus Stoinis
Oh, this was
वाला
तो
रन
अभी
चेज.
2016 से, हाँ, that वो last
16
ball
17
पे
में. So
run
it
out किया
seems
तो
like
yeah.
Australia New Zealand games in New Zealand have a
The
pattern.
World Cup match, man, again another one which we missed from 2015.
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the
So
greatest,
Yeah, amazing. Well,
the
I mean,
league game.
the league
yeah,
game.
Stark was playing darts in that game.
Yeah.
So
Bottom of the stars. Yeah.
and which is, if you look, even if you go back, Shane Bond's debut series, it's in Australia, but
Mm-hmm.
some of the matches between Australia and New Zealand are really good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And always they're always like, even in 2003 World Cup, the Australia New Zealand game, New Zealand did compete really well, जबकि Australia was on a rampage, right?
Mm.
um और इसीलिए I'm really looking forward to the series that is going to happen. It's surprising that New Zealand is getting a Boxing Day test after 30 years.
Shh.
Can you
New Zealand
imagine?
actually drew a series in Australia, if you remember the last time they played.
Ross Taylor 290.
290. No, no, उसके पहले वाला, not the last time. So
Oh,
the one before, they won a test match in Hobart. I don't know. It was, I think, one of Ponting's last few series or something.
कुछ ही तो
Okay.
सीरीज हैं जो मैं लुक फॉरवर्ड, एक है अब जब भी होगी वो बांग्लादेश पाकिस्तान टेस्ट सीरीज, आई एम रियली लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू इट.
So that caught behind में material मिलेगा, or is that why?
अब तो स्क्वाड बिहाइंड एंड आई वांट an Avengers type YouTube channel now where all of they come together.
And it will be fun कि क्योंकि डॉक्टर नोमान नियाज को इंट्रोडक्शन देना तो बहुत अच्छा लगता है ना, तो देन आई वांट टू सी हाउ ही इंट्रोड्यूस मोहसिन एंड मोहसिन.
नहीं,
क्या क्या हाइपरबोलिक इंट्रोडक्शन हो
आई
सकता है.
थिंक एक वीडियो सिर्फ नौमान नियाजी और मोहसिन सीनियर का अपन एक वीडियो बना के उनको करना चाहिए, उनको बस वो दोनों एक दूसरे से बात कर रहे हैं. आई थिंक आई पे, आई इफ दे वांट टू मनी आई पे फॉर दैट.
प्रीमियम कंटेंट पाकिस्तानी.
Caught behind Sena project.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think we should move on to the next game. So Aditya, your game that you
Yeah,
picked.
so my second राष्ट्रवाद वाला गेम which
Hmm.
जहाँ पे सेंटिमेंट से बाहर आता है is this India England 2002 Natwest Trophy final. So
Oh,
the reason I picked this game is because I think it marks a point when Indian cricket becomes modern for me. So Indian one day cricket becomes modern. So if you think of the everything that happened afterwards, even including the India Pakistan game that we just discussed, I think it had the belief had a lot to do with this game. Uh, it is the ODI equivalent of the
2001.
Eden Gardens
Hmm.
game for me in my head, because this is just before this series, like in a year or two ka span, you had KF and Yuvraj debuting. Dinesh Mongia has this exceptional series against Zimbabwe at home.
Yeah.
Like that is, I think, early 2002 or late 2001 is that
he
one day series.
opens, right? Dinesh Mongi opens
And he has a 140 or something, and which is
157, I think, or something.
157, something like that. And it is a keenly contested ODI series in some sense. Like Zimbabwe are not as bad as we would think. तो
Hmm.
ट्रेविस फ्रेंड का सीरीज था वो, if I'm not wrong. तो दैट इज जिम्बाब्वे में एक मार्कर प्लेयर हमेशा दिमाग में रहता है. ओके, दिस इज द साइड दैट हैज ट्रेविस फ्रेंड वैसा. तो आई थिंक दैट इज दैट सीरीज where all of these people come together, and an era where we start showing signs of winning overseas. So West Indies may we win that one test match which is very memorable for me, that Trinidad wala test, and we lose the series, but then we go on to win the one day series, which is a big deal for us back then. West Indies में एक 3 match one day series जीतना भी is a rarity. So
Yeah,
that is, things are just coming together, and then we have this tri series before the test series. So India, Sri Lanka, and England. So even Sri Lanka is not a very bad side. Sri Lanka is a decent side. So we just bulldoze through Sri Lanka in the league stages. We beat England multiple times. We enter the finals, and this is an era where we do not win tournament finals, which is why this becomes even more important. England might not have been the best ODI side going around back then, but they had a pretty okay side. And given the context, Lords May final again, a Saturday game,
Mhm.
and all that, and the Football World Cup 2002 World Cup final was just a day here and there, if I'm not wrong. That the one Brazil one,
Mm,
uh,
probably.
हाँ तो
जापान
नहीं, so
जापान में जो वर्ल्ड कप
एकदम
हुआ
ही
था,
you're
कोरिया
right,
जापान वाला.
because मुझे याद है कि दोनों, like this happened in July and the World Cup happened in during summer vacations,
So it
soccer
is
World Cup.
so
Yeah,
roughly around the same time, right? So so that is an era where everything is colorful. So we are in this final, and that right through the series, the defining this thing is that early in that series, India and England played another game where we chased down 275,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Where Yuvraj and Dravid actually pull off that run chase. So going into the final, but things look like there is this whole chain of tournament finals which we lose. There is this very humiliating 54 all out or OSAB
Sri
leading
Lanka.
us.
Yeah,
Sri
that
Lanka.
also like
Uh,
Jayasuriya 189 and India 54 all out.
and again in Sri Lanka in 2001 we have another bad final loss, and we lose to West Indies in a tri series in Zimbabwe, a
Champions
series
Trophy
which
final.
Hmm.
Champions Trophy final. So everything we lose. So finally it leads up to this. So frustrating as we concede 326, that too against like Nasir Hussain of all people scoring 100.
That was his
on
Against
first and only one day 100.
last. And
100.
you remember the celebration?
Yeah, पीछे helmet.
Bob
Yeah,
Willis को दिखाया था उसने
Like what does he want to like? What exactly was the message? Like
So
कोहली
apparently
अभी करता है तो समझ में आता है.
नहीं, तभी मैसेज ये था कि बॉब विलिस हैड कॉल्ड फॉर हिज प्लेस. ही सेड नंबर 3 में नहीं खेलना चाहिए हुसैन को. ही स्लोज डाउन द स्कोरिंग रेट. मतलब लॉजिकल बात किया था उसने, बॉब विलिस ने उस टाइम पे. तो ही जस्ट वाज पॉइंटिंग टुवर्ड्स द नंबर ऑन हिज शर्ट एंड से दैट
या
आई एम
विल स्टॉक ना.
टॉप नाउ. दिनेश रामदीन की तरह किया उसने. बाय द
दिनेश
टाइम
रावत ने तो लिख के लाया था मुझे
yeah.
एनीवे.
But what the heck, man? मतलब चूतिया है कहते हैं शामली. मतलब विव
सीरियसली
रिचर्ड को
विव
बोल रहा
रिचर्ड्स को.
है.
तू
एक
दिनेश
एक
रामदीन है और तू यू आर टेकिंग ऑन विव रिचर्ड्स
एंड
फर्स्ट
ऑल्सो
ऑफ
आफ्टर उसके बाद भी कुछ उखाड़ा नहीं है तुमने.
खड़ा
मतलब
नहीं है.
हाँ.
हाँ, तो
And
इसमें भी सेम दिस इनिंग्स आल्सो हैज अ सेम टेम्पलेट कि द रन चेज बिगिंस ऑन अ नोट वेयर देयर इज होपलेसनेस राइट इन मिडवे. मतलब यू हैव रिजाइंड टू द फैक्ट दैट दिस इज गोइंग टू बी अनदर फाइनल डिफीट. और पहले 5 से 10 ओवर में गांगुली को आई नो वी डोंट रेट मच,
oh man, this innings was yeah something.
but this innings marks the Ganguly era where Ganguly basically does just one thing,
बाहर
give him
निकल के कट.
Yeah,
बाहर निकल के कट
inside
और
out.
उसी
Yeah,
से
yeah.
पुल और कट. तो वो पूरा इनिंग्स यहाँ पे एंड दैट सहवाग इनिंग्स मैन. सो एट सम पॉइंट इन दैट इनिंग्स रॉनी ईरानी आता है बॉलिंग करने के लिए और
And he's paddling him,
him he's
and
done everything in that
third
over.
man fine leg.
He
Yeah.
has paddled, he has cut, he has swept एवरीथिंग ऑफ रॉनी ईरानी. तो फर्स्ट टाइम ऐसा लगा था कि किसी ने रॉनी ईरानी को अपना क्लास दिखा दिया क्योंकि वो इसेंशियली है ऑफ स्पिनर.
Yeah. Fast off spinner है वो. हाँ.
फास्ट ऑफ स्पिनर. तो वहां पे एंड दैट पॉइंट फिर भी हमको लगा था कि चलो इट विल लुक दिस विल बी अ गुड लुकिंग डिफीट बेसिकली. सो वी विल गेट क्लोज एंड वी विल लूज एंड बाय द टाइम इट रीचेस 140 फॉर 6 अगेन पता है कि अभी तो वो गुड लुकिंग डिफीट भी नहीं होगा. वो विल एंड अप लाइक
Yeah,
लूजिंग.
Giles gets Tendulkar. He's trying to give himself room and then yeah.
बैट एंड
और
पैड के बीच में से एक बस जा सकती थी.
और हाँ
नहीं
और
bat and pad नहीं. He just tries to cut it and he misses it altogether. Or
हाँ
मतलब he's way outside leg stump and the ball hits off stump.
एंड द्रविड जस्ट चिप्स ऐसा शॉर्ट मिड विकेट में है कहीं पे.
Yeah.
तो ऐसा
वो भी ईरानी
एंड
को ही.
ईरानी को ही. तो ईरानी के आई वाज लाइक थोड़ा एंटी रॉनी ईरानी. ठीक है मतलब बहुत
यू वर क्या?
वियर्ड.
यू वर मार्क एलहम ब्रिगेड क्या?
इयन ऑस्टिन. आई वाज इयन ऑस्टिन का
But ये Ronnie Irani, uh, मतलब where is he originally from? Because he looks no yeah because he what
he had Pakistani origins I think somewhere some Pakistani link.
okay वो दिखता नहीं था like he looked a proper Britain yeah
So he might be like आधा ancestry
yeah half
में
and half होगा हाँ
half and half होगा वो.
इंडियन ओरिजिन है बेटा.
इंडियन ओरिजिन है.
पारसी इंडियन.
पारसी.
oh
Oh,
तभी
ईरानी.
ईरानी yeah
ईरानी.
ईरानी चाय
Oh, interesting. So I
and
think
Ronnie
next
stands for what just Ronnie like is it a
रॉनी
short
रॉनी
I mean
कवादा.
Ronnie screw वाला.
no but Ronald होगा right
नहीं आई थिंक रॉनी स्क्रू वाला वाला रॉनी.
okay
तो वो पॉइंट पे फॉर सम रीजन पता है उस मैच में एवरीवन गिव्स दिस अल्टरनेट स्टोरी कि हमने टीवी ऑफ कर दिया फिर एंड में देखा.
नहीं हमने
मेरा
तो नहीं किया था yeah
मेरा एग्जैक्टली ऑपोजिट था.
yeah मेरा भी opposite ही है
फॉर सम रीजन क्योंकि युवराज और कैफ ने इन द लीड अप दे वर डिसेंट बैट्स
yeah
राइट.
yeah
तो
yeah
ऐसा था कि चलो कुछ नहीं तो इनका बैटिंग देख लेते हैं 1 घंटे तक. गेम से कुछ निकलेगा नहीं बट मे बी दिस गाइज विल स्कोर सम रन. सो इट फिर प्रेशर पूरा रिलीज हो गया 140 फॉर 6 पे 5 पे. सो देन जस्ट केप्ट वाचिंग फॉर एन आवर फिर 200 220 230 ऐसे तक रनचेस गया. And suddenly you started feeling कि and I was the only one watching at home so everyone else had gone off to sleep. My parents had gone off to sleep and suddenly at that point I'm watching or by the time it is in the last 10 overs it is like 70 of 60 balls type or even back then ठीक है 70 of 60 run a ball is doable right at
yeah the
that
only
point.
trick was
हाँ
मतलब भज्जी आ चुका था so
हाँ that is just when नहीं but Bajji walks in much later यार 50 और चाहिए था Bajji जब
okay
आया था.
हाँ तो हाँ मतलब the wickets were not we had less wickets then
But there were like patches in that game. So if we just go back, so there are these tiny patches where that Yuvraj against Flintoff,
Hmm.
Yuvraj taking on Goff. तो एक flurry of boundaries है एक बीच में एक पूरे phase में. So which point of the innings that happens, I don't very vividly remember right now. But there are these tiny phases of 2 to 3 overs where ऐसा there is a huge flurry of boundaries or run rate suddenly बढ़ गया and all that. And the reason we could pull it off was also because how fast that initial partnership
Hmm.
was. The opening partnership, um, like made room for a slower lower order partnership actually later on. And फिर भज्जी का वो सिक्स,
Yeah.
that wristy flick,
Flick over square leg.
flick sweep, whatever it was. किसको मारा था उसने? Was it ट्यूडर या कैडी को?
I think Tudor ही था शायद.
वो
Caddy
सीरीज
was
में
not in this match, I think.
कैडी was not in this match. Okay, correct. It was either Flintoff or Tudor. I don't remember. By the time the end में जाते जाते, do you think Kumble was out?
No, no.
कुम कुंबले आउट हुआ था ना?
नहीं नहीं,
कुंबले
I
out
mean
हुआ
वो
था. I
गलत
mean
गलत
like
डिसीजन था, I think.
decision गलत था ना. Down the leg
ओह
side
I
caught.
think so,
हाँ
yeah,
हाँ.
yeah.
Like Bajji gets out, then
Hmm.
immediately कुंबले आता है. कुंबले उसी ओवर में आउट हो जाता है, दो
वो
बॉल के.
Flint off नहीं, like he
So we need
sort of bounces him.
15 or 13 to get when this guy walks in.
Zahir.
When Bajji gets out and Kumble also gets out, so we need like 10 to win. और तब लगा था कि फिर से हार जाएंगे.
Yeah.
क्योंकि when Zahir gets out, the guy who will
No, Zahir
walk in.
doesn't get out.
नहीं, I'm
Oh,
saying
yeah, if he.
in
हाँ,
case
oh, Nehraji.
they brought her out, then it was Nehraji walking in,
Nehraji, yeah.
which is not something you want chasing
वैसे
T20.
Nehraji in another great match in New Zealand hit the winning runs.
Hmm.
या
But
उसके
वो
ऊपर उसके बाद जोक भी
गांगुली
बने
Hmm.
कि नेहरा नेहरा की बीवी बोल रही है, अरे नेहरा ने छक्का मारा, तो पीछे से कोई बोला नहीं हाइलाइट्स होंगे.
So
एनीवे सॉरी.
essentially the end is na, मतलब something which is like very feverish. This is very similar to how I felt during the India Pakistan Dhaka game. मतलब exactly very similar emotions,
Yeah.
that almost like fever wala feeling towards the end.
And at a very important stage, I also remember Kef going for like going down the like trying to go right over the bowler's head, but getting an edge and
And
went to the third. Yeah, fine third
against
man.
Darren Goff वो वाला.
Yeah.
वो if you go back and listen to the commentary, Bob Willis बोलता है even Darren Goff cannot stem the flow.
Fluff. Yeah, yeah.
That one. So that end का just last 1 hour of that game ना, मतलब I'll never forget that in my life.
Yeah. They'll come back for two. Lord goes wild.
मतलब that is the
India
point when you start
wins.
realizing हम लोग overseas जीत सकते हैं. मतलब first time you see that
And then of
happening.
course Ganguly shirt निकाल के. Fuck that.
वो मेरे लिए इतना पता नहीं, आई डोंट नो, मतलब आई डिडंट थिंक ऑफ इट एज अ बिग डील बैक देन, क्योंकि मेरे दिमाग में वो लॉर्ड्स और वो बालकनी का ऑरा वो सब तब इतना नहीं था. इट बिल्ट अप ओवर टाइम, बट आई डिडंट फील लाइक अच्छा लॉर्ड्स में कुछ ऐसा कर दिया, मतलब सैक्रिलेज वैसा वैसा तो कुछ आई डिडंट फील एट दैट पॉइंट.
तो फ्लिंटो वानखेड़े में कर सकता है, गांगुली लॉर्ड्स भी नहीं कर सकता. हाँ,
हाँ हाँ.
डोंट बी एन एंटी नेशनल नाउ.
वेयर वेर यू व्हेन
फ्लिंटो डिड इट एग्जैक्टली. तो तुम लोगों से अलग है मेरा, बिकॉज आई लिटरली so we did not have cable back then, so to watch matches I had to go to my bua's place who lived really close by, and so obviously there is a cut off time when, especially when the game is happening in England, and उसका सचिन out हो गया, तो I actually literally just left their place and went home because I didn't see any point, honestly. Like it was
Yeah.
a final. We were not winning finals. I was like, I mean, no matter what you say about Yuvraj and Cav, they are very young, and that's that. और उसके बाद मुझे याद है कि मैं रात को आई डोंट शायद सोने वोने चला गया था जो भी, और अचानक से बम वम वो होने की आवाज़ आई. एंड देन आई कॉल्ड अप माय कज़न. उस वक्त तो मतलब लैंडलाइन आई कॉल्ड अप माय कज़न एंड आई वाज लाइक क्या हुआ क्या हुआ. एंड ही वाज लाइक अरे ऐसा ऐसा इंडिया जीत गया. एंड आई वाज लाइक फक मैन. तो दैट इज लाइक द फर्स्ट मेमोरी की, मतलब लाइक वन ऑफ द ग्रेटेस्ट. और उस वक्त ऐसा होता था, स्पेशली आई एम श्योर बॉम्बे में ऐसा नहीं होता था, बट स्पेशली लाइक छोटे सिटीज में कि प्रेस लॉक हो जाता था, राइट. सो अगले दिन का जो न्यूज़पेपर होता था उसमें पूरे मैच का न्यूज़ नहीं आता था.
नहीं
तो
आता
अगले
था,
दिन
right.
बॉम्बे में भी सेम ही था, लेट नाइट मैच फिनिशेस का सेम ही होता था. हाँ.
तो अगले दिन
Yeah.
के न्यूज़पेपर में ऐसा है कि इंडिया इज लाइक स्टिल
हम्म,
जैसे कैफ और युवराज का
हम्म,
30 ऑड का पार्टनरशिप है जो कुछ
हम्म,
भी ऐसा।
हम्म,
तो उसमें मतलब
हम्म,
फुल जो एक मजा है ना एक मैच का जो लेते हैं ना अपन ऐसी विक्ट्री का, वो ले ही नहीं पाया मैं कभी उस मैच का एक्चुअली।
बट दैट वाज डिफरेंट क्योंकि आई आल्सो रिमेम्बर सो ईगरली वेटिंग अगले दिन का पेपर जिसमें गांगुली की इमेज होगी एंड
हम्म
वो फिर से पूरा पढ़ाएंगे कि वाओ व्हाट हैपेंड,
हम्म
सो दैट
या
वाज डिफरेंट, या
हाँ बट स्पेशली इफ यू वॉच द गेम देन यू डोंट रियली केयर अबाउट इट मच। उस वक्त देखो इंटरनेट भी नहीं था, तो
हम्म,
हम्म,
लाइक अब मोस्ट लाइक आफ्टर वॉचिंग अ गेम यू मोस्टली आइदर अगर चैनल वापस हाईलाइट दिखा दे तो आप हाईलाइट देख लें, या फिर
हम्म।
पेपर्स एंड उन सब में पढ़ें। तो yeah, never really could get the full joy out of that game. But
बट बट ऑब्जेक्टिवली अगर देखो, इफ यू डू वेयर टू डू लाइक अ स्टैट्स का डीप डाइव, यू गो बैक एंड लुक एट द इंग्लिश वनडे साइड एंड स्टफ, यू वुड एक्चुअली नॉट गेट द सेंस ऑफ हाउ बिग दैट वाज। वो तुमको लगेगा कि यार इंग्लैंड का वनडे साइड क्या था, मतलब उस टाइम इट वाज ऑर्डिनरी, राइट? लाइक वन ईयर डाउन द एक्चुअली द सेम वेरी सेम ईयर we meet England again in the Champions Trophy and we just hammer them
oh
like in,
my god, yeah, that game like सहवाग,
और वो भी
मतलब
छोटा
सहवाग
चीज
का
नहीं था।
सेंचुरी वेंचुरी हो गया, गांगुली थर्टीज में ही
हाँ,
है अभी भी।
हाँ, 270 हम लोगों ने कुछ 40 ओवर के पहले
हम्म,
मार के खत्म कर दिया था। तो एंड देन वी आल्सो वेंट ऑन टू बीट इंग्लैंड अगेन इन द 2003 वर्ल्ड कप जस्ट वन ईयर डाउन द लाइन। तो
नया लीग
Gen-
मैच,
ये
नया लीग
गेम
मैच।
काफी
हाँ ना,
पिवटल था। दिस गेम वाज क्वाइट पिवटल इन हाउ वी अप्रोच्ड वनडे क्रिकेट, and for this current Indian one day team I think we need an equivalent of this NatWest 2002 final.
so yeah, but like so first of all finals, and secondly the situation from where we won. I think
And who won it? Probably it wouldn't have been the same had it been that Sachin and Ganguly
yes, that's
bulldozing
also
India.
true.
हम्म,
That's also true. Ki, like new kids on like I'm still waiting for one such game to happen with our new kids.
Hmm. अगर समझो today we chase down 350 with Pant and Shreyas Iyer getting it for us,
That
it
will
would
be
still be
something.
seven.
yeah,
Hmm. So I
Mm.
think that is why, that is what is something when we were trying to pinpoint what is wrong with this Indian one day setup despite us winning so many games. I think this would be one thing. तो
So,
काफी काफी डिटेल्ड एनालिसिस दे दिया। एंड द अदर थिंग
हाँ,
दैट यू रियलाइज इज दैट युवराज मैन, मतलब युवराज वाज अ बिग मैच प्लेयर, मतलब
oh
द
yeah,
काइंड ऑफ बिग मैच इम्पैक्ट that he has had in white ball cricket, I don't think anyone else has had.
finals and quarterfinals and
Quarterfinals
all,
and
yeah, it's
games which
amazing.
meant like
Even the ICC knockout जब
knockouts,
debut किया
right?
था, that
Right
84
from
of
the
80
debut.
balls.
The only other player who I can think of who had such an impact in a short career is KP
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
and we've compared KP and Yuvraj before as well.
before as well.
KP
Oh,
did it in tests as well.
huh.
Unfortunately, Yuvraj
Yeah, yeah.
didn't. But
I would say Yuvraj the ODI equivalent.
hmm,
Yeah.
So, I know, like, again, we don't like Ganguly much, but your this point from you reminded me of something. So, everyone keeps talking about Ganguly ki captainship and all of that, and I never really truly believed that there was anything special apart from the fact that he was willing to give new players that he believed in more chances, like having Sehwag try
hmm,
and
He
open,
was less
right?
impatient than Kohli.
Yeah, exactly. But there is one moment which happened like recently. So I think last IPL was Yuvraj's last IPL, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I think so.
yeah, so I remember Ganguly is like one of the broadcasters, commentary team, mein, and Yuvraj is Mumbai Indians, right? Yuvraj.
Mumbai Indians, huh?
So Yuvraj is practicing, and there is this moment where Ganguly goes up to Yuvraj and he like shakes his hands and is like, play like Yuvraj Singh. And that moment, I mean, it's a very small moment, and there's nothing really grand about it. But maybe that is what was special about him being the captain, that he basically could make you feel like a
Hmm.
king, and that kind of gave you the confidence to like achieve things.
And in fact, he had this entire bunch, right? Others who would win him games, like even Lakshman in tests for that matter. At
Yeah,
some point, he had to be backed at that point. Had to be backed at number three for that innings to happen. So, and Zahir and Harbhajan with the ball. So I think he had quite a few of that lot. Sehwag. Uh, Sadly, with Kohli, that kind of a legacy building probably has not happened, despite
yeah,
us
and
having.
that is basically my point that Kohli has not been able to, like, when he retires and when Rohit retires,
Mm.
we will potentially have to start from the scratch again.
Scratch. True.
We won't have anyone like who we know that are ye to hai.
Kohli's bowling attack is basically Dhoni's
And
bowling attack, having been
No,
managed
but
better.
I mean, they still have a good. I don't know Rohit की fitness की वजह से maybe he definitely has lesser time than Kohli, but अभी है 3-4 साल. It,
Hmm.
maybe
Hopefully,
yeah,
they'll have
hopefully
an
they'll do something with Ayer and Gill. Yeah.
so going back to this, like Sehwag को opening try करा ना. If you guys remember 99 में, before the 99 World Cup, we had this try series with Pakistan, Sri Lanka and India. याद है?
सहवाग नीचे
Hmm.
बैटिंग किया था.
जिसमें सहवाग नीचे बैटिंग कर रहा था, and we had 3-4 players that we had picked that we thought would go with us in the 99 World Cup team, and we wanted to try them. So there was Sehwag, there was this off spinner Gyanendra Pandey, there was an
Yeah.
all rounder Lakshmi Ratan Shukla, and Amay Khurasia. Right, these 4 players were in the team, and I remember even then for 2-3 games, Ganguly made Khurasia open because Khurasia was one of those players who, I mean, who was like a like hitter basically, and
Hmm.
he wanted to see how he does, and he failed. But eventually he was picked in the 15, and Sehwag was not picked in the 15 for the 99 World Cup. But that is, and then later Khurasia never does anything, and then Sehwag comes back into the team in 2000, 2001, and that's the history. But it's like there are certain things that Ganguly did try, and I know in the long run of things and in victories and losses, it doesn't seem that, but
Hmm.
I think he was a good man manager.
Hmm. True.
So I think we've talked enough about this specific game. So let's move to my game, the
Yeah.
the game that. So I want to talk about the 1996 World Cup final between Australia and Sri Lanka. Somehow there is also another theme that I'm noticing is of Australia losing games that we are picking up.
Hmm.
But again, this game has got nothing to do with that because
अभी
uh,
ऑस्ट्रेलिया उतना hated
Australia
side
was
नहीं.
not, yeah, in their, like, exactly. They were still like transitioning. They were a great team. I
Hmm.
think had it not been for Sri Lanka performing like उनका जो जैसे कहते हैं ना एक
Had it not been played in the subcontinent, basically, they would have won.
हाँ,
Yeah.
yeah. But this game is has a lot of context. So this is a World Cup final. So that is that. But remember, you guys remember? I mean, you obviously guys remember that 95 में Sri Lanka tours Australia, and it's a catastrophe
Hmm.
on and off the field. Daryl Hare calls Muralidharan for no ball.
But there is one game with Kalu scores 100.
But like they accuse Sri Lanka of ball tampering,
Hmm.
um, and I mean everything that you can imagine. Like basically, Rantunga makes the team walk out. ये सब होता है 95 में. So they have a Australia and Sri Lanka already have a very bitter relationship, and on top of it, in the 96 World Cup, Australia, West Indies say that they will not go to Colombo to play the Sri Lanka games because the security situation was not good in Sri Lanka. And so the games were forfeited, and Australia uh, loses the point. And then at that point, Sri Lanka won all of their other games, so they go in as the group toppers. But um, Arjun Ratunga made a statement then that we want Australia to reach the World Cup final so that we can play them. Like
Yeah.
that is the amount of confidence that they have. And then the final happens. The final is in Lahore. Before that, the semi-final. Obviously, uh, that game when it happened, I mean, I watched it, but when it happened, I wanted Australia to win. But now in hindsight, I know how important it was for Sri Lanka to win that game and
Yeah.
how cricket basically benefited by Sri Lanka winning that game. There is again Pakistan to Pakistani story. So apparently, right before the game, Imran Khan met Arjuna Ranatunga right after the toss,
Hmm.
and he asked, अब ये story कितनी real है कितनी है मुझे नहीं पता, but
Yeah,
this is
I've
like,
also heard a lot of.
हाँ,
Yeah.
हाँ, so like, what did you decide to do? So we'll feel first. Like, are you
Hmm.
crazy? Like in a World Cup final, you win the toss, you bat first. You never feel first. Like you're telling this to a guy who is going in to lead his team to the World Cup final like a 5 minute
I
lead.
have
I
heard
don't
the
know.
exact same Imran Khan story about 99 World Cup also.
And also about 2015 World Cup India Pakistan game.
हाँ, I mean that time तो in fact in 2019 तो भाई as a PM भी उसने यही बोल दिया था.
घरेलू
But 99 वाला भी I think either Samyuddin or Khatmal,
कट-
I've heard from either of these two the exact same story that Imran
So
Khan
maybe
is.
then it's a legend.
Yeah.
But like I have also read this in one of Ranatunga's interview that he was a little shocked ki, because he obviously as a subcontinental player he looked up to Imran Khan as
Mhm.
obviously, and to for him to just straight up say कि भाई क्या कर रहे हो ये, he just he felt a little shocked. Anyway, so this is the first time that any team basically wins the World Cup final chasing,
Hmm.
and it looks like in hindsight it looks like a very one-sided game, which maybe it was, but the sheer power imbalance between the Australia and the Australia's cricket history and Sri Lanka, a team which had received test status like 15 years ago,
Yeah.
chasing against Australia. And uspe bhi, remember that they are chasing like 250 plus.
Yeah. But
And
Aravinda is just. I mean, he's almost bullying them.
yeah, but like they were 20 for 2. So
Hmm.
both in semi-finals and final, Kalu Vitarna and like we remember that World Cup, Jayasuriya's World Cup, but it was actually much more Aravinda's World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Uh,
and definitely not Kaluvitarna's World Cup. That's
I think
completely
that's just because it was the very first time जब किसी team ने want to they've maximized the first 15 overs by actually
Kalu
hitting.
had a mediocre World Cup. Kalu का कोई stats भी कुछ भी अच्छा नहीं है मतलब. He had
Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
few.
Yeah. It's just that the approach. It's just got famous then.
Actually, the guy who also did well in that World Cup was Marco.
oh,
Hmm.
I mean, Sachin did really well in that World Cup
Did
also.
really well. So they all had like quite a brisk strike rate going
एक
around.
बहुत ही शानदार फैक्ट बता दो उस वर्ल्ड कप, मोस्ट नंबर ऑफ कैचेस किसने लिए थे पता है उस वर्ल्ड कप में?
Sanju Manju.
96 World Cup.
Sanju
Jadeja?
Manju.
No.
अनिल कुंबले 8 कैचेस.
Shit.
वियर्ड रिकॉर्ड बट
I was going to say Ashish Kapoor for a moment, but to
आशीष
consider
कपूर इतने गेम्स ही नहीं खेला. आशीष कपूर को अपने मतलब सोचो.
आशीष
We-
कपूर नाम लेने से ना मुझे उसका एक काला कलर का एक टाइमेक्स का वॉच, दैट इज माय मेमोरी. वो वॉच के साथ बॉलिंग डालता था.
Hmm.
आशीष कपूर को बॉलिंग करते देखता था तब, जब भी मैं नॉट अभी मैं तब भी मुझे ऐसा लगता था कि जैसे ऐसे अपन जब खेलने जाते थे और कुछ अंकल्स होते थे जैसे मिड थर्टीज, अभी जो अपनी एज है
Yeah,
उस एज के जो कुछ अंकल्स होते थे जो बोलते थे हमें भी खिला लो, हम
हाँ,
ऑफ स्पिन करते हैं.
नहीं,
वैसे वो
मतलब
वैसे शर्ट वर्ट पहन के ऑफ स्पिन करने, वैसे आशीष कपूर को देख के वैसी फीलिंग आती थी.
आशीष वो
आशीष
कपूर
कपूर और अजय शर्मा उन दोनों के साथ ऐसी फीलिंग
yeah, he
आती थी.
was, yeah, a very, like, if you mishmash all the Indian faces of that age, वो आशीष कपूर बन जाएगा.
टेल मी व्हाई
स्पेशली
आशीष
नॉर्थ इंडियन.
कपूर
Hmm.
scored.
क्या बोल
Why
रहा है?
was did he play games before or after that World Cup? He played very few.
He played in the Singapore singer series, right?
उसने
He
क्या किया ऑफ वर्थ कि he got a place in the World Cup squad?
I mean, Ranji, I think he has basically he was a very basic off spinner, like finger
But
spinner.
wasn't
एकदम.
Rajesh Chavan also available for us मतलब
राजेश
in
राव के
that?
साथ कुछ चकिंग वकिंग का भी सीन था, आई थिंक.
वो तो बाद में हुआ था much later. So I wonder why he was part of that squad. ठीक है मतलब काफी spinners थे अपने पास. वेंकटपति राजू भी था.
वेंकटपति
छत्रपति राज.
वेंकटपति वेंकटपति राजू लोगों को गलत इंप्रेशन दे देता है. अभी कोई रिसेंटली बोल रहा था कि वो याद है वो 96 क्वार्टर फाइनल.
हाँ, वो
वो
बाहें फोल्ड करके
हाँ,
he was trying to, yeah.
वो बेचारा उसका उसके बाहें नीचे आ जाती थी तो फोल्ड करता था. उसको भी पता है कि कितना है उसके अंदर कैपेसिटी.
Venkatpati Raju used to beat you twice in the air of the same.
Of the same one. Venkatpati Raju was Rajat Bhatia before Rajat Bhatia was born. कभी
Yeah,
कभी तो ऐसा.
getting back. Okay, digressing again.
Sorry
Rajat Bhatia is almost the dibbly dobbly equivalent of Kedar Jadhav.
मतलब ये क्या likelihood है कि इन conversation on the best ODIs हम लोग रजत भाटिया तक पहुंच गए. मतलब लक्ष्मी रतन शुक्ला एंड रजत भाटिया का भी
Yeah.
रेफरेंस हो गया.
Ashish Kapoor also.
also. So
ज्ञानेंद्र पांडे के बारे में भी दो वर्ड बोलूंगा मैं। ज्ञानेंद्र पांडे से मुझे बहुत उम्मीद थी, बिकॉज ही वाज वन ऑफ दोस प्लेयर्स। 99 वर्ल्ड कप में आ गए अभी अपन 2 मिनट के
uh, mm,
लिए। ही वाज बेसिकली व्हाट सहवाग एंडेड अप बीइंग फॉर अस, right?
mm,
Like a swashbuckling batsman who could bowl decent off spin 6 7 overs every game. That was Gyanendra Pandey. And again, somehow he ended up not being able to do it. He eventually ended up becoming the UP Ranji team's coach. फिर बाद में
mm.
उस पे कुछ कुछ molestation का केस चल गया, तो he's now out of cricket. But
And
yeah,
Khurasia was Yuvraj before Yuvraj.
खुरसिया यार, खुरसिया वो बेसिकली ओवर कॉम्पनसेट कर दिया उसने, अपना जो ट्रिगर मूवमेंट था ना, बस वो
हम्म,
ले गया उसको।
हम्म।
ओवर कॉम्पनसेशन ले गया उसको।
आई रिमेम्बर शोएब ने उसको बोल्ड किया था
हाँ,
बिहाइंड
लेग
हिज
से।
लेग्स या
हाँ।
But yeah,
नहीं,
coming back to this World Cup final, do you think matches telecast from Pakistan used to look much better on TV than India? For some reason, the
इस
the
बात
back
पे कुछ नहीं बोलने का.
90s में ऐसा कुछ था क्या कि outfields in Pakistan were much better?
I
India
don't
में
think
सिर्फ
so.
Mohali used to look good on TV for
India's
sure.
outfield, like recently I ended up रॉब लिंडा का एक वीडियो जिसमें इंडिया वेस्ट इंडीज का जो 94 का सीरीज था, टेस्ट सीरीज, उसका रिव्यू किया उसने। And I
Mm.
look, the outfield was pathetic. Like, why would anybody jump on that outfield? Like, it's like literally soil. हाँ?
Yeah.
Mm.
और लेकिन if you go to 96 World Cup and if you see the games like South Africa UAE Faisalabad, this
Huh.
outfield
Oh,
is
true.
maybe marginally better.
Lahore
Uh,
looked much better. Something
so
about Lahore.
this was the first ever day night game in Pakistan. First ever day night game being played in Pakistan.
Mm.
Nice.
So
First
yeah,
day night game at Wankhede also happened in this very World Cup. India
the India
Australia.
Australia.
That was the first floodlit game in Wankhede.
उस गेम का लोग इतनी तारीफ करते, इतनी बात करते, पर मुझे तो बहुत ही मतलब ऐसा डिसअपॉइंटिंग सा मैच लगा वो।
नहीं,
आई डोंट नो।
डिसअपॉइंटिंग था लेकिन वो गेम भी काफी मतलब एटमॉस्फेयर वाज क्वाइट टेंस.
अच्छा, तू तो
काफी.
देखा वहां पे जाके, राइट?
हाँ. नहीं नहीं, स्टेडियम में ये मैच नहीं देखा. मतलब वर्ल्ड कप गेम दिखने जितना अपना कोई पहुंच नहीं
उसके
है.
लिए
आई
पहुंच
हैव
लगता है
वॉच्ड.
क्या?
Even in 96, it was like that.
By 96 that would have been the case. Ticket खरीदना was difficult and expensive also.
I I
I
don't
have
know if
watched
I've
most
said this
latest
in
matches.
I don't know if
Uh,
I've said this in any podcast yet, but I've never seen a game live from a stadium.
Neither have I.
I need
I
to
tried to
correct
watch
this, man.
one day cricket and T20s. I don't think are as much fun. टेस्ट क्रिकेट स्टेडियम में इट इज क्वाइट चिल. इंडिया में देखना है तो टेस्ट क्रिकेट ही देखना है स्टेडियम में.
ऐसा है क्या?
हाँ,
अभी
इट इज
तू you
पेन.
are going to watch something, right, in Australia, Nishu?
Yeah. First day, New Year's test, Sydney. I mean,
New
the
Zealand,
ticket,
Australia.
New Zealand, Australia. So tickets are booked. So most likely everything is all set.
I'm pretty
सही
sure
है
But
भाई।
that will be literally my first live cricket game ever.
Send me a few pictures how it looks from there.
Yeah,
one
actually,
thing which is
the friend who who
Uh,
lives there, he even when he was in India in my bachelor's, he was my roommate, so he went to that Nagpur test against Australia in 2008 में
8
हुआ था when that we
World Cup.
obviously won. ईशान शर्मा ने rear guard action किया था एक
हाँ
innings में.
हाँ हाँ।
So he went for a day there. So he actually has done it quite often. He used to live in Meerut in his childhood. So आसपास Delhi Valley में भी he has seen.
One thing that will strike you the first thing that you enter the ground. The first time I entered, all my cricket watching experience has been at Wankhede. So and एक match जो हमारे, so I am from this thing called as DY Patil College.
Mhm.
DY Patil Stadium पता है तुम लोगों को?
Yeah.
हमारे क्या
हाँ हाँ।
Pune Warriors का home ground.
पुणे वॉरियर्स का होम ग्राउंड।
home ground, also Mumbai ka home while Wankhede was being renovated.
Mhm.
So when I was in college, उस time पे वो stadium was getting constructed. So we are now digressing completely from this World Cup final, if it is okay. So
Go on.
at that point, that stadium was being constructed, or towards my final year, the stadium was done. सिर्फ रूफ लगना बाकी था. So there was this inaugural DY Patil T20 tournament जिसमें खेल रहा है सहवाग, यूसुफ पठान, फ्री एंट्री. बैठ के देख रहे हैं, सहवाग ने एक 25 बॉल में 100 मार दिया था. जस्ट क्रैशिंग. ऐसे हर टीम में एक प्लेयर होता था ढंग का, एंड एवरीबडी एल्स इज लाइक यूनिवर्सिटी का बच्चा. ऐसा टाइप का लोग खेल रहा है इसमें. So that game, so I have watched most games there, but one thing that will strike you the moment you enter is that how small these grounds look. For some reason, TV makes it look much bigger than it
I
actually.
hope that's not the case in SCG, but
everywhere. I went to just for that stadium tour of Lords last year.
Mhm.
बहुत अंडरवेलमिंग लगा यार, मतलब अंदर जाने के बाद लगा यार इतना सा ग्राउंड है, दिस इज इट,
Yeah,
दिस
actually,
इज
I've heard the same thing about. So one of my friend, he went, he was doing some internship or something like that. तो वो था लंदन में. He just went and saw a county game at Lords like one day, and he was also very underwhelmed. I mean that.
Very interesting.
मेरा मेरा लॉर्ड्स का पूरा जो ऑरा है ना, आई फेल्ट बैड. आई एंजॉयड गोइंग थ्रू द म्यूजियम, द हिस्ट्री,
Exactly. Yeah.
द लॉन्ग रूम्स एंड ऑल आर एक्सेप्शनल, मतलब वो सब देख के ड्रेसिंग रूम वगैरह दिखाया वो अच्छा लगा. बट द मोमेंट वी वेंट टू द ग्राउंड ना, स्पेशली फ्रॉम द स्टैंड्स, तो मेंबर्स पेविलियन से अगर वो ग्राउंड देखो तो इट लुक्स सो टाइनी. ऐसे लगता है कि मतलब जो लोकल मैदान हमारे यहाँ पे होता है वो भी इसी साइज का है. इट ओनली लुक्स बिग वंस यू रीच दी, वो जो स्पेसशिप वाला जो डोम है
Hmm.
उसके अंदर से यू गेट अ सेंस ऑफ ओके द ग्राउंड इज बिग इनफ, बट सम एंगल्स इट लुक्स टाइनी एंड वानखेड़े तो बहुत छोटा लगता है अंदर जाने के बाद.
तो वानखेड़े में भूत नहीं आ पाएगा?
नहीं आ पाएगा, और
सो
वैसे लोगों के बीच में कौन सा बूथ रहना चाहेगा.
सो वानखेड़े से सैन होजे में आता हूँ. सैन होजे में सो यू नो ये इंटरनेशनल फ्रेंडलीज वगैरह होता है, तो सैन होजे में मैंने मैन्यू वर्सेस लिवरपूल का एक मैच देखा.
ओ.
And I had the same feeling. I felt that the ground was much smaller than I expected it to be.
तो
I
इज
don't
इट
know.
समथिंग टू विद
So which ground was it? तो वो ये Santa Clara वाला.
वही, हाँ वही सैन होजे सेंटा क्लारा वाला.
Levi's Stadium. So
हाँ.
I haven't been to Levi's Stadium, but यहाँ पे I went to see जो Patriots का जो home ground है, which is a Gillette Stadium. So two times I've been there. One was to see a Coldplay concert,
हम्म.
and the other one I wasn't there, but I was going to drop. Like my wife is a big Messi fan, so
हम्म.
Copa America का Argentina versus some match was happening there.
अच्छा.
Um, but that stadium is huge.
मतलब
I didn't
I'm
get that feeling there for sure.
I'm talking about the playing surface, okay, so not essentially to
Me
do with
too.
the stands or
Yeah,
वो
I'm
सब.
talking about the playing with the
Yeah,
ground.
then. So again, concert के
Because
समय तो
Wankhede
obviously
is
everything
fairly,
was.
no,
Uh,
Wankhede in that sense is fairly big, so you have those actual 2 tier 3 tier stands ना. तो वहां से if you are in the top balcony you will feel like you are part of a tiny part of a big ocean, लेकिन जो playing surface feels like the first sight of that playing surface will underwhelm you a lot. I don't know if you will have the same experience as Sydney. Now I think we should have not put the bias in your head, but
But
yeah.
Sydney is
okay,
much bigger, right, in size than
Yeah,
वानखेड़े.
definitely.
10 मीटर तो बड़ा है ही,
हाँ,
मतलब इन द सेंस.
बट वो तो लॉर्ड्स के लिए भी बोला जाता है ना कि लॉर्ड्स में एक एक एंड ऑफ द बाउंड्री इज सपोज टू बी क्वाइट लॉन्ग, बट हाँ, बट लॉर्ड्स इज नॉट स्टिल एससीजी और एमसीजी, दैट इज ट्रू.
but I again आदित्य के लिए ही है ये question because both of us have never seen. Is it even visible?
हाँ, if you are at the right angles, which is why I say टेस्ट क्रिकेट देखना is much better because टेस्ट क्रिकेट में you it's
You
easier to
yeah, it's not full
get the
packed, so
हाँ मिड ऑन के पीछे वाला जो एंगल
ऑस्ट्रेलिया
है.
में एससीजी पैक्ड होगा.
हाँ, and that too New Year's test.
टिकट
So
भी एक्सपेंसिव है ना. वनडे क्रिकेट में इफ आई वांट टू बाय अ टिकट एट वानखेड़े व्हिच इज स्ट्रेट वाला एंगल, द नॉर्थ स्टैंड, व्हिच इज राइट बिहाइंड द बॉलर्स आर्म, तो वनडे में इट इज वेरी एक्सपेंसिव, 2,500 रुपीज का टिकट्स है बेसिक. बट टेस्ट क्रिकेट में यू कैन गेट 500 रुपीज का टिकट व्हिच गिव्स यू द होल 5 days का एक्सेस.
अच्छा, हैव यू सीन भुवनेश्वर कुमार बॉल इन द
यस,
स्टेडियम?
यस, आई सॉ हिम गेटिंग कीटन जेनिंग्स आउट.
अच्छा, tell me this. Can you see the ball when he's bowling? Like after the ball has left his hands? Can you?
उतना क्लियरली नहीं दिखता है, बट डे में इट इज बेटर विजिबिलिटी.
No, no,
यू
no,
कैन
no.
कैन
In
सी
the sense, I'm not like, let's say you are in the best possible seat and the best possible angle. Will
इट.
you be able to see the ball? मैं reaction time के उससे question पूछ रहा हूँ
डेफिनेटली
actually.
ब्रेटली का बॉल मुझे नहीं दिखा था. ब्रेटली को मैंने लाइव देखा है. जॉनसन और ब्रेटली यू डोंट सी अ थिंग, उसका तो तुमको देखना ही पड़ता है.
इसीलिए इलम पसंद है इसको.
हाँ.
हम्म.
तो बेटर
रजत
एक्सपीरियंस.
भाटिया.
बट आई हैव सीन लाइक ये स्टुअर्ट ब्रॉड और भुवनेश्वर कुमार, ये पेस का लोग का दिख जाता है. यू कैन सी दी कीपर कलेक्टिंग इट वो पॉइंट तक, बट देयर आर थिंग्स व्हिच यू कैन नेवर गेट अ सेंस ऑफ, व्हिच इज लाइक एलबीडब्ल्यू डिसीजंस. पैड पे लगने के बाद यू हैव नो वे टू से कि ये आउट
Yeah,
था. और बैट पैड डिसीजंस, बैट पैड हैपन सो क्विकली कि हम लोग बोलते हैं ना अंपायर के बारे में कि यार गलत डिसीजन. बैट पैड इज सच अ डिफिकल्ट थिंग टू मेक आउट रियल टाइम.
yeah.
कॉट बिहाइंड बैट पैड, बहुत सारा चीज नहीं समझ में आता है, दैट इज ट्रू।
नहीं तो मेरा वही एंटिसिपेशन था कि लाइक हम अपन बोलते कि भुवनेश्वर कुमार क्या बॉलिंग कर रहा है, बट लाइक when you really if you were to face him it would have been
बट
very
व्हाट यू
different.
रियली गेट टू एंजॉय इन द ग्राउंड इज स्ट्रोक प्ले। अगर स्क्वायर कट वगैरह दिखा है रियल टाइम में, देयर इज सम फन, मतलब व्हेन द बैट हिट्स द बॉल और वो रेवर्बरेट होता है ना
Duck.
ग्राउंड में, वो दैट इज फन। आई डोंट नो, दैट इज द मोस्ट नीश थिंग दैट यू कैन एंजॉय इन अ गेम, बट and the entire experience, the community experience of watching it, मेरे पास एक uncle, just I'll just end in that, मतलब when you're watching a game you're watching it with, so in Bombay the thing is कि test cricket के tickets are inexpensive ना, तो quite a few people pack into the ground, lot of people walk in, मतलब उसी दिन 100 रुपए का ticket लेके and all that, so you should watch cricket. That is the only stand I've been able to watch cricket from, so I don't know how it feels to watch it from bigger, मतलब प्रीमियम बॉक्सेस एंड स्टफ, बट इसमें दी फन इज कि रैंडम लोगों के साथ तुम्हारा दिन भर कॉन्वर्जेशन चल रहा है थ्रू आउट द 3 सेशंस, मतलब दोज आर द थिंग्स दैट यू एंजॉय फ्रॉम द
And
ग्राउंड।
it's about the community experience, the memory, like I have a second cousin in Calcutta जिसने अपने घर में फ्रेम करा के रखा है टिकट 14 March 2001 डे 4 का। वो
हम्म।
टिकट उसने फ्रेम करके रखा है क्योंकि वो गेम ईडन गार्डन्स में बैठ के देखा था उसने,
और
वो
कुछ
डे
कुछ भी
रादर।
बकवास, मतलब ये पॉडकास्ट में जो चल रहा है वो लाइव ग्राउंड में चल रहा है थ्रू द 3 सेशंस विद पीपल हु यू हैव नेवर मेट इन योर लाइफ एंड यू विल नेवर मीट अगेन इन योर
बट
लाइफ।
Yeah.
कई लोगों के ओपिनियंस इतने अनक्वालिफाइड होते हैं ना कि मुझे
नहीं बट
ठीक
ठीक
है।
है, मैं बहुत बार, सो आई हैड गॉन फॉर दिस हॉकी गेम, ठीक है, रांची राइनोज वर्सेस मुंबई, ठीक है, मास्टर्स,
हम्म,
सो बहुत ही मतलब नीश रेफरेंस
हम्म,
है। तो व्हाइल आई एम एंटरिंग दिस गेम, दिस इज दिस इंडियन हॉकी लीग का गेम, तो वो एंटर
हम्म,
करते वक्त देयर आर दिस टू पीपल वेयरिंग रांची राइनोज का जर्सी, तो आई टेल माय फ्रेंड कि अरे यार बॉम्बे में रांची राइनोज का मर्चेंडाइज खरीदने वाला लोग भी है, मतलब आई डिडंट एक्सपेक्ट। Then the people standing there, they heard me saying this, and they went on to say that हम लोग टीम का ओनर है।
ओके।
They were at the entrance welcoming people, तो मैं बोला यार काफी
I'm sorry this is
हॉकी लीग की काफी फॉलोइंग है।
पर
Ranchi
इतना
Rhinos.
ना, इमेजिन इमेजिन कि ईडन गार्डन से तो शाहरुख खान बाहर खड़ा है कि अरे आइए ना मेरी बेटी की शादी है, आइए ना खाना खा के जाना।
और अंदर जाने के बाद देन आई रियलाइज कि स्टैंड्स में पीपल आर वाचिंग, और लोगों को रूल नहीं पता है। हॉकी में डी के अंदर से तुमको स्ट्रोक अटेम्प्ट करो तब
हाँ,
जाके गोल
तब
होता है
गोल
ना,
होता है, उसके बाहर नहीं
कोई
मिलता है।
ऐसे, कोई हाफवे लाइन से किसी ने तो किया और वो अंदर गया एंड दिस गाय बिहाइंड मी शाउटिंग गोल, फिर गोल क्यों नहीं दिया चिल्ला रहा है, मैं बोला अंकल गोल नहीं है वो, मतलब आपको अंदर से अटेम्प्ट करना पड़ता है। दैट हैपेंस बट दैट आल्सो एड्स टू द एक्सपीरियंस।
ऑल्सो ऐसे सॉकर देखने में मजा आता है जब किसी जो, क्योंकि कई सॉकर फैन, इंडियन सॉकर फैन, आई एम सॉरी अब तो खत्म ही हो गया, अपन कहाँ चले गए सॉरी, बट
This is
इंडियन
our
सॉकर,
essentially the end of every episode,
yeah,
huh?
Indian soccer fans, some Indian soccer fans are soccer fans because it's cool to be soccer. It's in India, it's weird, right? If you
Hmm.
are like actually like in the over all over the world, cricket is the classist sport, and soccer is
Hmm.
the sport of the masses. In India,
Passes.
it's the opposite.
Hmm.
Cricket is the sport of the masses, and soccer is
Hmm.
basically for like these peppy
Hmm.
preppy kids, right?
Hmm.
तो उनके साथ कभी मैच देखो, अरे GGMU की टी शर्ट वी शर्ट पहन के, लेकिन उनको ऑफसाइड का रूल नहीं पता,
पता है, हाँ।
और फिर बोलते क्या हो गया, क्यों 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 क्या हो गया, क्या हो गया, मैंने बोला ऑफसाइड हो गया, मतलब ऑफ की तरफ चली गई, मतलब एक क्रिकेट नहीं है ये।
लेग साइड में नहीं गया, हाँ।
Yeah.
Basically, so that is all about ground में match watching. How did we get there? We do not know.
वी गॉट देयर बिकॉज़ आई डोंट, लाहौर, लाहौर का ग्राउंड अच्छा है, वहां
हाँ,
से शुरू
लाहौर
हुआ
का
था।
ग्राउंड अच्छा है यार.
Anyway, so just my passing thoughts. The calmness with which Aravinda played, Asanka Gurusingha played, and Arjuna Ranatunga played was something that can only come from having decades and decades of experience playing Test cricket and one day cricket and knowing your worth. And I think that is something that, and let's not discuss this any further, but I think that is something that we need to make sure our young cricketers like Iyer and Pant get to.
Hmm.
experience so that they can push it.
And only
Ha-
then cricket will be the real winner.
yeah, क्योंकि they really did the ones into twos and the twos into threes.
That is all Arjuna Ranatunga did.
Yeah, and with that, I think we should close this segment.
This is the
Um,
second segment, and
yeah, and I just
say
want, before closing just this segment, I just want to say that there are many YouTube videos of Sanat Jayasuriya batting, but there is a video of Sanat Jayasuriya which has far more million views, not on YouTube. Take care, guys.
right.